Three, two, one. I'm really dragging this out. So I like to drag out the count to give all of the social apps a chance to connect. Hey guys, we're on Jason J. Daniel show. Thank you so much. I'm Jason J. Daniel. I want to say welcome, and I want to say welcome to my fantastic guest. I'm really excited. The last time we had Liz on, it was a wonderful experience. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about how to make my mic work better. It was a little hot. She's a gracious guest, but I want to say thank you. If you're new, all new folks are welcome. We really enjoy just getting the information out. It is the cyber press. We are just speaking the truth. Truth, no judgment here. That's unless you earn judgment, then I'll give it to you. But truth, no judgment here on my podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Liz. Lay has been just really taking the internet by storm for San Francisco. And I am really glad to have her on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I connected with you first on the Hanako Abe situation, which is extremely tragic, but you guys are bringing hope to it. You are part of a group of journalists online, and you could say activists, and very, very passionate, smart, brilliant people that have taken this cause on. And it's a deeper cause. There's a lot of levels to it. So we talked about it last time, and I would like to have you give us an update. But first, I want to ask you something extremely important. What are you doing for Halloween? What's your tradition? Do you guys have Halloween traditions?
Yes, and
Okay.
Halloween is a particularly exciting holiday for San Francisco because we love to dress up. I mean, that's why we have Beta Breakers and we're always in costume or Santa Con or something like that.
Right?
There are plenty of activities and social gatherings for the week of Halloween. I think at least three that I'm already signed up for.
Really? Okay. So this is out in the community, not necessarily your home traditions.
Yes, we used to throw a party until one day the cops showed up and were knocking at our door, and I was like, "Okay, maybe we need to, you know, tone this down a bit." But there's a couple of really interesting events. They're having one, I think, at the Legion of Honor where they're doing a DJ. So it's like a museum, but they're also having the night at the museum for, uh, San Francisco visitors to come and dress up as art-inspired costumes.
That is so cool. I love that about San Francisco and about the Bay in general. We're very lucky. I mean, you're more lucky because you're there. I'm outside a little bit more. It's more of a drive for me. But one time I got lost on Halloween on the bus system. Yeah, and I was younger. I was in my 20s, and I was like, "Well, I don't need a map, right?" And I hadn't did spend a lot of time in the city, and me and some friends got way lost, and it was just you can imagine the costumes and just like how terrified I was as I got more lost. But I found my way. So, well, that's great. I like to ask everybody about their traditions. I was getting completely like caught up in life and forgot, hey, Halloween is like super close. So I put on my Halloween colors and we're good to go. So I thought that would be interesting. I always ask people like, what goes on? Everyone has family traditions for the holidays. It's like a super fun time. So I want to take a moment to just let our audience know, and they're jumping on live. So thank you guys. My guest today has been featured on NBC News, San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Standard, and her work was referenced today in the New York Post, which is so cool. Making a difference. Liz is a columnist for the Voice of San Francisco, one of my favorite web pages to go to and accounts to follow. And her colleagues there are fantastic. She's a local court watcher. She researches what's going on down there, guys. So if you see her sitting in the courtroom, you better behave. Her articles and her posts on X do pack a punch. I love them, but they also carry the weight of common sense, and that is so important. Okay, so there you go. Your bona fides, am I saying that right? Have been established. Let's talk about something extremely tragic, but I feel a glimmer of hope. I just going to tell you that when I saw what happened with Hanako Abe's situation with Troy McAllister, if you wouldn't mind, give us a quick update. I know that there was the court, the next hearing was moved, right? So not a lot of action happened. But just for the folks that are new to this, let them know what happened and where things are at.
Okay. So Hanako Abe is a young woman who was killed in San Francisco in 2020 on New Year's Eve. And her family has been waiting for justice. For 5 years, there have been delays on her trials. And also Elizabeth Platt, I think, was the other woman that was killed. And both of
Yeah.
them were killed by Troy McAllister. He has, over 91 felonies in San Francisco alone, over 100 felonies across San Mateo, Contra Costa, Alameda. So it is, uh, as I was quoted, an assault on justice to wait 5 years and then uh, have a request accepted by Judge Biggert to review this for diversion, review this court case for diversion. And he's not qualified under California law because there was a DUI and he killed two people. And usually these diversion cases are meant for very low level misdemeanors, not over 91 felonies. He's been arrested several times, and he is the reason why the now disgraced recall DA, Chesa Boudin, was ousted from San Francisco. And the fact that it came back up in the news because they just thought, well, no one's paying attention. We're just going to put this into diversion court. And there's a lot of bias because Judge Biggert is the one who kind of built and leads San Francisco Care Court, which is, all these diversion types of cases. So he's very biased. He wants diversion for everyone. And he's an inappropriate person to be presiding over her case. And it caused, a huge emotional storm in San Francisco where the community members, activists, journalists, we all got together and we decided to stage a protest on the steps of San Francisco Superior Court right before the hearing. And of course, all the media was there. So that's sort of how we started to get picked up. And that once the light was shining very heavily in the court, on it, even though he didn't allow any filming in the court. You couldn't even take your phones out in the court. They just said, oh, well, we'll just defer it because at this time, I guess there was so much of a spotlight that, and you have to remember that our public defender, Raju, is up for re-election next year. So to have his team, say that Troy McAllister deserves diversion is outrageous.
It's unbelievable. So you said something that really just was really super cool. So it's your impression because you know how this goes that they might have set that next trial up or moved the hearing because of all the spotlight and that there wasn't really any other reason for that because I thought why would they do that? They had everybody there, right? They had the family in Japan on Zoom, everybody was ready. So, elaborate on that. What w
Yes.
talk about
It
that.
happens quite often, and there are many high-profile cases, including Grandpa Bicha, as you know, was killed, and there was video of someone just, running into him. He fell so hard, he died, and that case is also every time cameras come into the courtroom or are waiting, suddenly there is some, sudden deferment request for more time, as if 5 years wasn't enough time for them to get ready for this case. So it happens quite often, and they really want to exhaust the families and the witnesses so that they eventually abandon, asking and wanting justice. And this is one of the tactics that the public defender uses, but also, these very, very pro restorative justice types of judges are actually allowing for, which is uh, an egregious just part of, just trying to break down criminal justice and trying to justify that by saying, well, we can break the law to enforce the law, basically, and you're supposed to have a functioning criminal justice system where you can have expedited trials. I mean, you give that for the perpetrator. Why can't you give that to the victims and the victims' families? So there's a lot of civil rights violations that should be addressed. And this is one of the things that all the news media uh, helped us with was, I started posting about how Hanako Abe's case should get a federal trial. I mean, if you've seen, there are some cases that are have two tracks. They have a federal track, and because San Francisco Superior Court has been so ideological, they've had to use the federal fast track for many things, federal courts, including to deport fentanyl dealers and actually hold them for trial, and actually have jail sentencing. And so it's this federal fast track, federal courts that we're asking that that basically Hanako Abe's case should be considered under, because there's a bunch of violations, civil rights violations, Marcy's laws, and the fact that Judge Baker is completely biased. He's not the most appropriate person to be presiding over her case, and I think it got uh, uh, really good coverage from folks like David Sachs, who does the All In podcast. He even mentioned Hanako Abe's case in the podcast recently, and and the judges and how ideological they are, and they're pretty much creating this merry-go-round system for all sorts of probation and diversion for drug dealers, serial felons, people who have killed people. It's just, the range is incredible when you think about, these were originally designed to be more like misdemeanors and low-level crimes, but they're just using these loopholes, and these judges don't seem to be accountable to anyone. And the laws that have been passed at the state level have actually made it even easier for judges to have discretion over these types of diversions and probations.
The power of the local courts is staggering to me. And when you hear this, when a person hears this, I don't think they really understand what you're saying is absolutely so, like, true in so many cases in the local courts. And what you're saying is terrifying. It really is. If you listen to everything that you're saying, if a person does, and you're going to the courthouse, you're to these trials, you're witnessing this, you're researching, you're spending after hours to talk to, you're doing hard journalism, and what you're coming back with, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, is more and more evidence that this is trending in the worst possible direction, right?
Absolutely. And it also impacts when you think about homeless addicts, right? If the courts, the judges are constantly allowing mental illness, drug addictions to, you're basically letting these people out in the streets. That's why you have the terrible case with the Ukrainian woman who was slashed, right? It's just basically random assaults. And I heard also a case of somebody being killed for opening the door for somebody in New York and being um, beaten to death. And these are mentally ill, addicted people that have a lot of serial crimes, misdemeanors, and felonies that are also being let out by judges, right? And so what
Yeah.
happens is you have an astronomical, uptick in drug-induced psychosis and assaults. So San Francisco takes 6 out of the top 10 spots across all of California ERs for the most percentage of homeless, people that they serve, as the percentage of homeless among all the patients that come to the ER. We take 6 of those top 10 spots. We serve close to 23,000 homeless addicts in the ER in 2023 alone. And we only have 8,000 homeless people in our streets as estimated. So you can imagine, they're probably underestimated, but also high rates of recidivism, right? That people going again and again doing these things and having to be brought to the ER, which also drives up assaults on the ER physicians, the nurses, the frontline workers, because these people are under drug or alcohol induced psychosis.
Have have you personally, and I'm sure the answer is yes, have you experienced an ER yeah, right. I'm sure
Yeah,
you've gone there, right?
yes.
So go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I when people watch this, need to understand you're doing the hard work on, you're going to these places. You're not just regurgitating what, let me say, conservative or right side people might say, right? Because a lot of what you're saying, folks that might be leaning towards, the moderate to liberal side, which is a lot of San Francisco, I'll just put it that way, would just automatically go, that can't be true. This is the golden city, right? Or the what's the San Francisco, the Bay, right? The city by the
Right,
Bay, right? This is
right,
our, the Niners, right? It's our jewel, right? No, what you're talking about sounds like kind of apocalyptic,
right, and
but you're seeing it.
yeah, you're seeing it, and the numbers don't lie because these are numbers that are tracked by, housing and, care services by the federal government. So you can have this data is publicly available, right? And so when I ended up in the ER, I learned a couple of things. I learned that they started a canine German Shepherd security there that helps to detect gunpowder residue because the assaults and the crimes on the ER physicians are so high and they're putting their lives at risk. It's already a chaotic place to begin with, but then you have homeless addicts who also carry weapons. It's extremely violent on the streets.
Uh,
So being in the ER, I learned that because there was also a drug-induced psychosis case while I was there, and a lot of wailing and screaming, and that's how I discovered that this happens quite often, that our SFPD has to bring these drug-induced psychosis. They've committed some crime, whether that's property damage or assaults, and they bring them into the ER, and this is what happens. Not all of our hospitals have a psychiatric, service center, and the one I didn't. That's why regular patients share the ER with drug-induced psychosis from the homeless population, and we spend billions of dollars to treat these people because we are becoming so lenient on our harm reduction and housing first narratives. We're not, being more tougher and stricter on. We can't let these people out on the streets if they're using drugs. We need to have, uh, recovery and drug-free recovery shelters, right? Which unfortunately our governor did not sign the bill to allow for that to happen, which is horrible for cities like San Francisco, who are under so much pressure. And we're dealing with the fentanyl crisis as well. So it's compounded, all of this is compounded together. It would have been nice because it was bipartisan and it shocked a lot of Democratic legislature, Congress that this is the reason why, and why would the governor not sign this? It's just common sense, and this is happening across California cities.
Yeah, wow. You said so many great things. I will just chime in on the governor not signing the bill. That was not the only one that had bipartisan support that he just said no to, that just shocked people. And it wouldn't have been difficult for him to have, done it. Fiscally, it didn't make any sense to anyone, but that I digress. What you're saying is so powerful. One of the thoughts that comes to me is the nexus between crime, fentanyl, courts, recidivism. Am I saying that recidivism? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you're saying it right.
Okay. Tongue twister. All of these things seem to just connect over and over again. They're overlapping. And I'll say this, the San Francisco in the Bay Area has always been known as the very lenient on a lot of things, which has been, they've gotten a lot of criticism for that. But I've been open minded to say, hey, you have to try to do certain things, right? People are people, right? But it's been 20 years of this experiment totally failing. And now there has to be a pendulum swing, a very tough legislation, tough courts, tough on crime. There has to be, I guess, what would be the word? Just a pushback to balance the scales, in my opinion. So a lot of people might hear what you're saying and say, "Well, that's so hard," or maybe that's not the answer. But numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. So back to the numbers. This is amazing. Thank you. Let's let's um, let's just let everybody know about the next court hearing. Did they give a date for that for Hanako?
I think so. I think it's I'll check again, but I think it was October 28 or
I
something
think that
like.
sounds right. I was looking for it before, but again, there you go. That should be obviously not that you're because you've already posted it, but it should be the media should obviously have that things like that. And I look, and even the media is letting everyone down, in my opinion, and that's why the cyber journalism you guys do is so amazing. The other really quick, I want to ask you this question. It was really intriguing to me. So you guys were on the steps of the protest, and I would have personally gone out there. I could have, but I had some. I was already leveraged on my booking, but you guys were out there, a small and mighty force. Is that the way to put it? Small and
Yes,
mighty. It
yes.
got so much mainstream media attention. It was crazy. Everybody covered it. It was like boom. It was like I opened up my browser. It feels like it was everywhere. Fox News, CNN, everybody, left and right, covered it. Moderate, everyone covered. So, talk about that impact. Like small but mighty. Like, what's been the like? I guess the spotlight's bigger now, right? What's been that impact since that protest on the inform just the knowledge, the people wanting knowledge on this?
Yeah, I think that people have reached this breaking point because of all the crime and the judges, and there is a bit of an information gatekeeping that makes it very difficult for us to be able to make a huge impact on the election of judges. Right? People don't see the track record. It's almost impossible to get transcripts about sentencing from the San Francisco Superior court. You can't get those digitally as you would federal trials. And I think it helped that all the media picked it up, and I think it was wonderful from a worldwide perspective. But also there are people who see that San Francisco is suffering, and they help to amplify it. Everyday people, from residents to the tech industry, everybody and that kind of led to the the other part of the viral post that Tom Wolfe had posted about the fentanyl crisis, and we needed help. Maybe we needed federal help because Benioff had mentioned that about Dreamforce, which is wrapping up this week, and maybe National Guard could help supplement uh, officers. Not sure what he was talking about specifically, but then it went viral on on the media, and then Elon Musk decided to
Oh,
repost
yeah, yeah, didn't he? Yeah, that was
the
crazy.
survey that I did for The Voice, which was a citywide survey, and this is part of my other half of my my lifetime career of being a data nerd and doing a lot of research and strategy. We do studies all the time around the world, and doing a citywide survey was just something that we did earlier this year. The story came out in June, but we actually did the survey in March, and it was weighted for among San Francisco voters for gender, age, ethnicity, the way that you would normally do it to make sure it was sound and stable. And to get, we had no idea what the outcome would be, but we had a couple different interesting questions in there. And one of them happened to be, you know, how do people feel about getting some federal help? Didn't say specifically what form, but to help us deport fentanyl dealers in San Francisco. And it was a kind of a shocking result that 83%, if you included, the people that somewhat agree and then strongly agree, that jumped to 83%. And then if you just took the people who strongly agree, that was already 61%. So it's almost two-thirds. And you're talking about a very liberal city, and this is not this is not like MAGA or conservative. It's just San Francisco voters, and everyone had gotten to the point where they felt there was a breaking point, that we are not making the dent in the fentanyl crisis. We have thousands of fentanyl dealers that get deported. I mean, there's some of them get deported, but they just keep coming back second, third, fourth time, even though they've been deported through the fast track. And the leniency on San Francisco Superior Court on giving them probation and not holding them for trial has just exacerbated and pretty much sent a message to even more, fentanyl dealers that San Francisco is a free for all, right? I mean, every I don't even know how many new drug dealers come in for every one we try to deport, right? It's just the volume and it's just the chaos out there, and the overdoses continue to skyrocket, and the crime from the drug induced psychosis and the retail exodus from the assaults that retail, service workers, frontline workers have to deal with every day, because there's all this crime that happens with trying to, steal to deal with your drug habit. That's what Macy's was saying, that it was happening every day, multiple times a day, and that, our flagship store Macy's left. It was planning to leave because it was not sustainable, and that wasn't just Macy's. It's hundreds and hundreds of other retailers from San Francisco.
Yeah, and the small businesses, not even to mention the impact on them. Um, I like what you wrote that the New York Post picked up, and and this is why I love what you do, because like, boom, you were able to get that information out, and your people need to follow you on X. It's such a good read. You wrote, even in a city, and this is a quote, renowned for its bleeding heart, there's a breaking point. That's just an amazing way to put it. So Benioff, just for those that don't know, they should know, he's the Salesforce guy, right? He's and so if I was him, knowing that conference was happening, he's bringing like a million nerds out there, right? And then these are some people going to get hurt out there. These are tough people, right? So I can understand he was like panicking, going, somebody's going to get hurt. Look, people have developed, especially out there. I've been out there a number of times. Look, I can understand how people develop a thick skin and they walk around it. They find different paths. They out of sight, out of mind. Residents are forced to put up with it because San Francisco has so many amazing things in, right? It's an amazing place, but it is turning into, in some areas, which is filtering throughout the city, like an apocalyptic, zombie zone, and it's violent. How about the guy? There was a guy just recently was shot in the face with a
Yes,
shotgun outside an area where people are supposed to be getting help by a drug addict.
the library, the main
Yeah.
library, and he was an urban alchemy. This is what happens when you divert millions of dollars from SFPD and you give it to, a nonprofit. And these people are not trained. They don't have, they're not armed, and you're putting them in harm's way to say, oh, they should be, basically standing around and trying to make things seem safe, but they're not trained as officers. They don't have weapons, and so this urban alchemy person, asked this drug addict to, if he could not use in front of these kids and families, and he just took out a shotgun and killed him. And this is exactly, this is not just the first case, right? There's lots of cases where drug induced psychosis, like um, uh, the young man who was 6'4", the cyclist, right? His name was, I think it was Colden. He tried to protect some kids out at the Muni bus stop.
Yeah, and yeah,
And 6 foot
stab,
four.
right?
I mean, and you have to understand, first it's kids and women and elders, but then someone tries to come in and help, and whether that's an urban alchemy person or a 6'4" cyclist, he, these people are drug induced, so they,
Well, they're lethal.
yes,
They're
exactly.
absolutely lethal, and there are people that just they watch TV, they're on their phones, they're living their life. They're like, "Hey, if I'm ever out on the street, I could defend my." People fool themselves into not understanding how lethal it is out of their home. And
Exactly.
you have your family's personally experienced, we talked about in the last podcast, a real terrible situation where your son was trapped on a bus, right? With one of these nightmares walking the streets. And, he was okay, thank God. And if people want to get into that story, definitely watch our last episode. You like how I plugged that? Because it's a good episode. It went viral. But like, like the urban alchemy, is that what it's called? These are
Yes.
folks that are trained to be on the streets, right? And you've got folks that are trained at least somewhat, right? They understand it, and they're getting murdered, right? So my point is if the people who are trained to deal with these folks on the streets are getting killed, like there we're at a breaking point. So speaking of that, and breaking point is what you've used. Um, so Trump mentioned just recently that National Guard, San Francisco. He just rattles off on the list. Hey, you do all these things, guys. Like I mean, it's crazy, right? All the things that he wants to do in a day, and I'm bringing this up not to even talk about Trump in the general sense of like him, but it seems like the more, in my opinion, the more Gavin Newsom does things to antagonize the administration, he's putting a spotlight in San Francisco, because that's, people think of Newsom when they think of San Francisco, or they think of the heartbeat of liberal policies, and also Sacramento. How do you feel, and the people that you talk to, maybe you could speak for them, about the National Guard coming in or federal intervention? Talk about that feeling, because you have your finger on the pulse of what people might think about that. We know it would be a chaos of, we know the protest would be a thing, sure, but what about the people that really think, the people think this is needed?
Yeah, and if you follow the SF Public Safety News, they're also on X. They're a great source. They do a lot of stuff with the courts too. I love their articles. They talk a lot about narcotics, the FBI narcotics team, and the DEA, which is already in San Francisco, right?
Sure.
Helping. So that's the great thing, is a lot of people may not know that we already have federal intervention at that level to deal with narcotics and drug trafficking. And but we are 500 officers short, right? And for every 1,000 people that want to apply to be SFPD, only 10% really pass all the tests to even get a seat at the police academy. And there are very rigorous tests, mental health and all these other capabilities. And so it's not easy to recruit. And then you have hundreds of officers that are going to be retired, and that we've known for some time, but we're 500 officers short, and that is a huge problem. In terms of the National Guard, I mean, they're very restricted by what they can do by law, right? And they're there to kind of protect buildings, but they can't, federalized ones. I mean, there are limitations. So I don't think that is as scary as people might think, because you can't. There's so many laws around what they can do. But I think the bigger issues are the judges, and we need to start passing, tougher laws at the state level that says, hey, if your discretionary decisions are causing people to die on the streets, maybe you should be relegated to traffic court. Maybe you shouldn't be doing criminal court if your decisions are that poor, right? I mean, we shouldn't give sole discretion in some of these sentencing if someone has had, you know, tons of felonies. It seems as there should be a minimum of what is considered, proportionate sentencing, whether that's jail time or whatever. And those things need to be enforced by the state and the county leadership, which is by California Judicial Council law, says that those are the people who need to enforce it when there is judicial misconduct or lack of transparency, all of those things.
Wow, can I take a step back and say it's like I feel like I'm in a college course. You're like you really are professor. I'm so bad with my words today. Because I'm thinking I'm trying to do hard words. These are big words, guys. Hell, give me some grace.
I'll bring my tweed jacket next time and my
Yes, professorial. They're whatever. But it's you give us the hard data, but you're also giving us a solution when you're talking, right? You're saying this is the area to, now no one knows the answers. But we all do as a team. It takes that village, but this is the area, right? You're seeing. Um, so, and I want to take a step back just for everybody. And we're bringing up the federal government intervening. We're bringing up Donald Trump. We're bringing up Gavin. We're bringing up We have immigration. We'll probably mention we're not doing these things to be provocative. These are things we have to talk about. We have to be able to have a dialogue and say, what if ICE comes in, and not everybody freak out without having a dialogue, right? So just for the people watching, that's not what we do. I don't, so I just, so you guys know, I'm not going somewhere with this. I just really am asking questions about these things with someone who would be impacted. Liz would be impacted, your life, your family. And I know that's, by the way, you're an awesome mother, and that's so important to you. And we need that. I'm digressing, but I was having a conversation this weekend with somebody who I care about greatly, and I love this person. And this person was asking me about fatherhood and these kind of things, and I was just like, fatherhood, motherhood, parents. It's so important. If you can be there for your children, because then, now you can't always prevent things, but then if you're not there or someone goes astray, it's your job as a parent. I believe that. But then you have these nightmares like McAllister, 91 felonies, and he had a good family.
Yeah,
Apparently, from what, right?
yeah,
And you look at his history, we won't get it. I actually would love to personally do a show about him, when we see how this goes. Because and talk about this history, because as I was researching him, I'm going, this is something that's so important for this. His life is so important for people to see. It doesn't fit the typical life of someone who would expect to be at 91 felonies, but we do know that fentanyl, and drugs, very key to that. And you know how they say for every bad guy they catch, there's like five they don't, or every murder they solve, right? I look at that 91 and go, for every felony he caught a case for, there's probably 300 and he didn't, right? This guy
exactly.
has probably done more than they've even, figured out. And eventually he went to savage murder, right? That was just so sad. No doubt about it. It was a savage way to murder those two people and kill them. And not to mention the family, right? They're in another country. So again, please research that. So back to the crime and the drug nexus. So Benioff was getting concerned for the nerds. All right, he put out the bat signal. Tom talked about it. Tom Wolf, shout out to Tom, and then Elon, right, and then all these things, right. So we can be clear that there's a direct possible connection to the president, like the Elon Musk, who retweeted this, and this got this moving as well. And he's a billionaire, the tech billionaires. This could happen. They could really get the attention of, my point is they could get the attention of the federal government, right?
And
So
his and with X being in Soma, right? They had their own personal
yes.
experience with the machete wielding crazy
Yes.
person. So I mean, everyone knows somebody that's had experienced something. The degree of separation is, when you think about it, everyone knows somebody or has been
Yes.
assaulted through some form of the fentanyl crisis, whether that's drug induced psychosis or retail thefts, business thefts. Everyone
Yeah.
has acted. Mhm.
Yeah, and even there was a tech millionaire that was murdered, killed, but he was stabbed a few years ago. It wasn't drugs per se, or I'm unclear, but it was on that bank. He was going to the ATM or something. But where I was going with this is, the tech billionaires used to be like lauded, right? They used to be like in that area. Oh, they were worshipped, right? And then all of a sudden, they're now being villainized because they just don't want to be murdered. They don't want to, right? And I'm interested. Could you talk to me about that? Like, is everybody now kind of against the tech billionaires, or is it just the media saying, okay, Benioff and Elon, they're making a thing of it because that's something that would help, the right? Like, talk about that, because I've been really intrigued. How come everybody hates the tech guys now in the Bay?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, there was Prop C, right? And Benioff kind of helped get
Oh,
Prop C on the ballot and passed, and that really helped the Coalition on Homelessness get all this money, and it exacerbated the drug tourism. So it pretty much created the crisis that we have.
okay,
Give
I
people
see.
money and you have drugs and you don't enforce it, guess what happens? Drug dealers come and people from all over the country come to buy our $2 fentanyl. And then we give cash for people. And the Coalition of Homelessness was basically kind of helping people who were out of towners say, "Oh yeah, I'm homeless and I'm from San Francisco." So suddenly you're given hundreds of dollars in cash to basically fund your drug addiction. So Prop C was sort of Benioff's brainchild, and and then
I get it. So it's like, look
also
what you did, man.
right, but then and that tax the tax, right? All the big companies
That
that
true, right? Okay, I see.
big
Yeah,
revenue would go to this. So they were upset, of course. And now, a huge part of the tech industry is trying really hard. I think there's so many people like Gary Tan and a bunch
yeah,
of founders. They're doing so many things to try to basically get the word out and take our cities back and really try to help, elevate the track records of these judges, right? Because they're very hard to for people to know. We have an information gatekeeping that makes it very difficult.
yeah. And look, I love recalls. I'm a big fan of protests, and peaceful protests. I'm a fan of peaceful, where what you guys did was incredible because went viral. I'm a fan of that, and now I believe I could be wrong that the last couple of recalls that the Bay Area has experienced that were successful, there was some tech money. There was some of those guys. You need that money. You need millionaire money, really, to have a recall because a lot of folks look at that as blown money because it's really tough to recall. But on the flip side, it happened, and there's such a wave. I don't think people are saying there's maybe kind like a red wave. I don't think it's that. My opinion is it's just a common sense wave.
Right.
People just don't want to be murdered because
Yes.
that's it. You can't do anything after that. You can't come back for that. And now that's the point. We were at the point out your car gets jacked, you get robbed, unfortunately we were at those points, right? Everybody kind of experienced one of those things in these very big urban areas. And murder was happening, and kind of on a high click, but no one was really like thinking I could be murdered if I'm not doing something nefarious. A lot of the murder was connected with nefarious, right? But now we're talking about you can go to the ATM, you can go to the city library, you could have a lunatic with a shotgun. Like,
Exactly.
right? It's not like it's not like a 9 millimeter. He had a shotgun. So like it's like it's like Vice City out there. So speaking of the fentanyl, there's so many amazing things that you're talking about with me. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It's a blessing. Let's talk about something that you keyed me in on today, which was the cat from Honduras who keeps coming back to deal fentanyl. Talk about this story. It's to me blew me away.
Yes. So he's one of many cases where lenient judges pretty much give them probation or even the federal fast track, which says, oh, we're just going to deport you, but they don't actually have any jail time. So even the federal courts in our kind of Northern California area is not as strict as some of the federal courts on sentencing in other parts of the country, right? So some judges are saying, why are you just deporting people? People should also serve time because there's no deterrent, right? And it's so easy to come back in that it's the third, fourth time that this particular fentanyl dealer came back into San Francisco. Martinez is his name, and he
Yeah.
and he was arrested by the FBI, and they deported him on the federal fast track. But when they deported him, they kind of bypassed ICE. So I don't know if that kind of made it harder for them to track him. But he came right back in again. And so it wasn't. It was like, and now he's pleading again that I'm going to stay. I promise. I won't come back. And
Yeah. He was begging. He's like, I promise I won't come back for the fourth time and bring enough
exactly.
fentanyl to kill 40,000. Was it 40? It was like crazy numbers, like 95 grams he had. It was crazy.
Yes, and it could kill thousands and thousands of people.
Thousands.
It only takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl to kill an adult.
It's so crazy because we all have the same mind. So when I was researching it, I went to Grok and I was like, how much could that kill? And you guys did the same thing. You posted something even more wild than what I saw. And if people don't understand, like we're talking milligrams could kill you. And we're not even talking about what it's mixed with, or what does they call it, a hot pocket, where if your fentanyl or your drug you're taking is not mixed right, and it's got a little extra pocket of a little pure fentanyl, like it's curtains, like it's and not just, and the addiction is like, right. So it's so crazy how much this guy brought in, and he was from Honduras. Now, I've never been there, but something tells me that's a hard trip if you're coming across the border, with the opposition, right? You it's not like unless he was able to come through and no one caught him, but he did this 3 times after being deported.
Exactly. It's not an easy trip. I have been to Honduras, but not that part of it probably where the SF Chronicle did an extensive investigation on a particular city in Honduras where a lot of these illegal fentanyl dealers are from, where they're building mansions over there with the money that they make because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. And they're even building mansions with like emblems of the Golden Gate Bridge and all of these things because we are the source of their wealth.
Sorry, it's not funny, but
It
it's
isn't, right?
it's
And
crazy.
the tweet, or sorry, the X post that Tom Wolf put up where Elon reposted, he basically said there were not over 90 plus kilos of fentanyl that were seized in 1 year by SFPD. 90 kilos is like 90,000 grams. That's 90 million milligrams. I mean, that kills 45 million people.
So, how many people are in San Francisco? You had that ballpark,
800,000, right?
right?
So,
So we're talking one guy from Honduras
oh
could
yeah, so this,
kill
right. So the one guy, he had tons of
could kill
fentanyl,
San
he could kill
Francisco.
thousands
Everybody
of
in San
people.
Francisco, if they were all using.
Yeah, in 1 year, SFPD seized over 90 kilos, right? So that is just the amount of fentanyl just coming into San Francisco alone is unbelievable.
So, wow. Okay, I did not know about the mansions. I did not know that. See, this is why you guys need to watch this podcast. So, okay, so apparently this guy, his name, Jairo Mendoza, if Arzo, forgive me, I'm not clear on it, but uh, this gentleman, his name's on the screen. Clearly, he's connected and comes back for purposes like he's got a connection. Like he can for him to get deported and risk it again, right? Clearly, he's getting paid well, or someone has leverage on him. Clearly, he is supported by somebody, some folks that are connected to the cartels. Clearly, so if you're a judge or someone like this, clearly you should know how the game works. Like I'm an idiot to this stuff. Just to be clear, I'm not anybody that knows anything about drug dealing, but I could probably figure out that this guy's connected. Why would judges, knowing this guy's come back 3 times, why would they just continue to give him 2 weeks, 3 weeks, house arrest? Is it just because they think ICE is going to do their part because he did go to deportation? Are they trying to put it on the feds to keep them out? Like, why do you think they're just not going, this guy is a serious dealer and could kill a lot of people? What's the disconnect?
Yeah, these people are mostly public defender history in terms of being judges. We didn't have that many judges that had a history of being public defenders. So they are ideological, right? They don't believe in incarceration. They believe in this, Prop 47, the, restorative justice that a lot of the money from Soros and the ACLU went, those are top two funders for Prop 47, which pretty much decriminalize, serial fentanyl dealing and decriminalize all drugs. I mean, they were treating all sorts of hardcore drugs the same as pot. Even date rape drugs were legalized and made it, you could catch somebody with tons of GHB, which is date rape drugs, and you could not charge these people.
There's a lot of that stuff in the Bay too. Yeah.
Yes, and so these judges are. We didn't have that many of those types of judges, right? I mean, judges are not supposed to be ideological. They're not. They're not supposed to be a third arm for the public defense, which is what's happening.
I
And
see.
a larger amount of them were were basically appointed. And once you're an incumbent judge, it's very hard to unseat you because, one, there are not that many people who actually run against you. And if you don't have somebody running against you, you don't even show up for the ballot, which is, is a law we should change, right? Because
Yeah.
you should still be able to say yay or nay on a judge, even if they have no person that is actually trying to unseat them. So you can, I think that's important. And the second thing is, these judges are, once they're appointed and they come in, it's very difficult. It takes a lot of money to be able to unseat them, but also, we can't track their records. We don't see the sentencing because of the way San Francisco Superior Court is not making it very transparent, and they don't want to report their criminal court clearance rates to the California Judicial Council, which is outrageous because by law they're supposed to do that, and no one's enforcing this. So this is the other issue that I think citizens need to get really loud about.
I,
Why
I like that.
why are you guys not enforcing this? By law they should be showing us what are the resolutions to the cases. Are they going to diversion? What are the numbers? And we know that they're hiding the numbers because they don't want you to see that San Francisco doesn't barely have any trials. We have tons of judges and resources per capita, but we cannot clear cases for trial, and we don't resolve cases. And this is a huge problem. So I think
Yeah,
we
they
need to.
just keep them going on and on, or they
Yes,
backdoor it.
exactly.
So, well, first of all, everyone needs to follow you. Okay, I want to give everyone a call to action. Follow Liz on X, and also subscribe to anything she's doing. The Voice of San Francisco, one of my favorite reads. You guys are terrifying me, though. I gotta be honest. I'm like, stop. Tell me the truth. Just lie to me a little bit. No, you you terrify me. You and Susan are just so good. Nothing gets past you guys. I love that. Now we're wrapping up on our an hour. It just went by so fast, and you have a lot going on, obviously, with your family. And I want to, for anyone watching, we're on the West Coast, so we're doing this after hours. So thank you. Couple of questions before we go, because this is so powerful. The judges, I have that's one of my big things. Everybody has their thing, right? Judges, just, I think they're out of control, and it's not because I lean conservative, because that's a rap judges get. Oh, they're too liberal. I think judges have way too much power, like in general, like over a lot, just people over things, right? If people have ever been in a courtroom, you'll notice the judge, well, in my opinion, depends on the place. Judge shows up late, goes in what he wants, tells people off, he's nasty, he threatens, or you have a judge that's just vacant, right? Just not paying attention. I've never seen a judge actually look at the victims, in my opinion, in California and really put them first, except years ago that happened, right? And you see true crime stories, 10, 12 years ago, but not now. So do you think, Liz, and again, this is speculation. We're speculating because criminals are so lethal now. Like it's not lost on these judges. Do you think that if they really did the job, they'd be putting people away for a long time, making families mad, making enemies, right? Because these are just some really tough cats. Do you think that's part of it? These judges just don't want that smoke, and they're like, "Hey, I can get away with this. I can have a good profile. I get some good media. I can stay under the radar and stay in this gig." Because people don't vote for judges, they ignore it on the ballot. They're confused. They don't know. Oh, it's a judge. People trust the word judge, right? People naturally are educated to trust judges, right? So do you think that's part of it? It's just the human nature of, they're like, or do you think they're all just ideologues? Because I know you believe that as well. Do you think it's all that, or do you think there's kind of some cowardness, my word, going on here?
Well, I definitely think that they've been getting away with it because these judges have a terrible track record, and voters say that the judges need to be ousted. They even said that in the survey, and we did, a couple of other questions, and they say judges are to blame. Right? They basically said that 85%, top three box agrees, said that judges that are lenient on criminals hurt public safety in my city. Right? So they know that. But when it comes to voting, that there is the information, you know, the gatekeeping. And people go to the Chronicle, and the Chronicle endorsed the two worst judges in San Francisco last year, which included Judge Biggert, the one that is in the Hanako Abe's case. Stop Crime Action gave that judge an F, based on the track record of
I give him all an F just because I don't like him, but he actually earned it.
yeah, he got an F, and so did the other judge that they also reelected. So I know that people, and so they're listening to the Chronicle, and then you
Why?
have.
Yeah, and why do you think the Chronicle would do that?
I think the Chronicle has this very strange relationship with the progressives,
Okay,
and also
ideology. Got it.
Scott Wiener endorsed those judges. So people think he's like this nice guy from what they remembered him as a supervisor in the Castro, but they don't really know his track record in Sacramento. I mean, they don't know that he blocked every effort to reform Prop 47 for years. People that I know that love him from his days at the Castro, and they're like law and order people. They have no clue what his record is, and I think that is also part of the problem, right?
Man, yeah. It's just you put it so well, and you put in some Scott in there, and he's huge. He's a big problem. Um,
It's a big
he
problem.
really is. I give him a hard time for not keeping his shirt on, and that's fine. He's got some abs, but I mean, but really, realistically, like his legislation, his obstruction is just there's no sense to a lot of it, other than being he's just opposing stuff, right? So obviously there might be some federal intervention on a lot of levels. Who knows? Right now with the current administration, they're going gangbusters on anything that apparently annoys them. Okay, so that's a reality. But speak to the people. I noticed in some of your comments as you were today, some people are, they're like they like the idea of getting help, but then they're like from the federal, but they're going to kidnap people. They're all these things, right? They're the devil. Um, Help people out to help them understand there might be a difference between the reality versus the perception. And some people, look, I can appreciate some people might feel very, very terrified by some of that stuff. I get that. But but the lethality on the streets, the chaos, there has to be some sort of balance. So what do you say to people like that that are just so ideological that they won't be open to maybe this could work?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the fear mongering on some of the traditional mainstream media headlines, right? I
Yeah.
mean, uh, it's just like kind of the way that they kind of make ICE seem like this terrible organization. It's part of the federal government, and Obama, he deported millions of people,
A lot
and
of
not
people.
there was not a single judge that raised an issue with that. And we have a problem. I mean, I used to be in constitutional debate, and judicial review is our category. And, the Supreme Court has judicial review. And now every single federal court judge wants to have judicial review. That's reserved for the Supreme Court for a reason.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And that's what I've been saying is like these courts are out of control. No one ever thought that a district federal court could tell the president, no matter who it is, you can't do stuff that's in the Constitution. It's a lack of knowledge. Sorry to interrupt, but man, yeah, you're speaking my language.
No, exactly. And there is a balance of power for that reason, the branches of government. And
That's
so
right. The
that's why the
separation.
Supreme Court had to keep coming back and saying, no, judicial review is reserved for us. It's not for every single, appeals court across the country. Then it would be chaos. You can't
Well, they
have
don't
that.
realize they're devaluing the power that they do have. Right? By doing this over and over. And then they go to the Supremes put it back, right? Or the Supremes say you can't do that. And then it just waters down anything that they really could do. That's effective. Just so we haven't talked about immigration heavily on this. You mentioned ICE and in the perception. I would like people to know that my mother was an immigrant. And just so people know, just to put it out there. And she came over and she had a green card. So without immigration, I wouldn't be here on this podcast. Okay. So, I'm not, to the people. And what was interesting is at 9/11, okay, just so we put here this out here. My mother had been living, doing her thing. We're grown kids. You know, she's got two grown kids. She's the sweetest person that could be. 9/11 happened. The federal government under Bush went after my mom and made her bring all her papers in and put her through the entire process. Okay.
Wow.
And she is from Greece. I'll clarify that. So it doesn't, you know, sometimes we go through this as a country. Sometimes something happens and immigration or these, you know, how that works becomes a thing. And we all are affected. And so to say that, yes, you know, this is something that the government does and they've been doing it for years and the numbers are very high under a lot of presidents. To say that is one thing, but to have the social media we have now, right? Because it's, you know, and it's like live, we're seeing videos and people are attacking ICE and slashing tires and, you know, the drama and the terror, families being torn apart. That's a strong word, but it is a reality in some cases. I understand that. But I'll say this, I just went through a DUI checkpoint. I made it. We're cool, no drama. But I went through a checkpoint and I noticed on the side of the road, they had all these grandmas and they had a sign there just in case somebody had kids and they were arrested and the grandmas would, right? So even US citizens that violate laws are separated from families because of law enforcement doing their job. So I just thought that I throw that out there. We're just trying to be balanced here for everybody, and you know, but if the federal government needs to deport guys like this gentleman from Honduras, and apparently Honduras has a connection to the Bay Area drug trade, what's wrong with that? You know, I asked myself, what's wrong with that?
And I think the mistake that often people pick up from some of the headlines is that they're conflating i- immigration with deporting illegal,
Bad
felons.
guys, yeah.
Has nothing to do with being, anti-immigration.
Right.
And so they put you in these, force you into these two dichotomies that are false to begin with. So you really have to, question why are they conflating those things. It's the same thing as if, you talked about, I don't want to have, men in women's sports. Oh, that makes you anti-LGBT. I mean, that's like the only two options there are, and those are false
Yes.
dichotomies to begin with. So I think they just have to keep questioning, like, well, that's not true. And from an immigration perspective, like I have a cousin in Vietnam who tried so many times to come in here as a tourist, and he had to prove again and again in his immigration interviews, do you have money in Vietnam? I mean, do you have businesses? Do you have, family? Do you have kids? And if you can't prove your heavy ties to your home country, you become a high risk for overstaying your visa. And that's the reason why his visa was denied twice in 2018 and 2020. He had to do that many, many times, and people don't realize that. The irony is, and then I remember the managing directors of a really big company brought a bunch of Vietnamese execs over to the U.S. and they went to Hawaii, and then when it was time for them to leave, three of them did not return on the plane. So it's very easy to overstay your visa, and you
I
can't
would
just
have done the
assume
same thing though. Can't blame. I love Hawaii.
that because it's a poor student. No, everybody wants to come and stay in the US, and they're hanging around in Hawaii, it's looking quite nice, and they're just like, oh, we're just going to stay, and they never return to their jobs. So overstaying your visa in the US, I mean, we have to be strict on that. And I think once we
Yeah.
decide that some people allow it but not others, there's a long line of people who are waiting to try to get in here legally. And I think it's a disservice and disrespect for how many years some people wait to be able to come visit or to be able to get a visa to work or go to school here.
Well said. I couldn't have said it any better myself. That's one of my things when it comes to this is my mother was grilled 3 times in San Francisco at immigration, and she'd been here, green card, had kids, right?
Mhm.
Because of her situation, because some of her documentation was old and outdated, and they fixed it. In the situation of your relative, right? And there are people who have done it right, and are there people waiting? It's just not fair, and I that's a part of it too. It's just not fair to people that go through the process. It's a hard process. It's not
It
fair, and
is.
you know, and a lot of them, yeah, time and money, and then they still get rejected. And Now, the one thing that, not to turn it into this, I mean, I love this conversation, but I don't want people to think that, we're not, I don't know. It's just, it's important to the process, and it's such a hot button issue, and, but people got to be, we got to be free to talk. We have to be able to speak. And if we say the wrong things, everyone out there, if you're talking to someone, it's okay to gauge the temperature, and understand not everybody is going to be really down with maybe how you feel about it, but you have to be able to feel free to speak your mind and not be terrified to be canceled, right?
Exactly.
Mentioning women and men and women's sports. I'm a big sports guy for years. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that that shouldn't happen, because it's just a safety issue, and we've seen it. But if I have that opinion, hypothetically, some people might think that I'm not progressive enough. But I'm like, hey, man, you don't know me, and I think that's part of it. We just don't know each other. We label each other. We don't have conversations, and I think if people watch this whole conversation, they might be surprised to learn about us. And so, but so, okay, so it's been over an hour, and I promised I'd let you go. This has been fantastic. We can't solve these problems, but we can try to get there. I'll give you the last word. If we missed anything, Liz, what do you want people to know at the end of this?
Well, I mean, next year, our big election year for judges. So, and keep helping to amplify independent news. That's the only way we're going to educate people. We're not trying to tell people how to think. We just want to make sure you get all the data, and so you can make an informed decision. But for so long, it's only been, you're only getting half of the story. But I think that's kind of where we're what I love about what you do is you're actually having a conversation and getting people to think. And yes, they could have different opinions. And I really appreciate this time and all your
Well,
help in amplifying Hanako's case. And I think we should continue to ask uh, whatever connections we have so that she could get a federal trial.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. Well, I appreciate your time 100%. And you've coached me and educated me. And that's one of my um, goals, right? Is for me to learn and speak to really interesting people, and to be able to have a conversation that's really just relevant and vulnerable. I think that's really important, to be vulnerable. Well, let's do it. Let's keep on those judges, and stay safe out there, everybody in San Francisco. And also, jump to, okay. So follow Liz. We're gonna wrap. Follow Liz on X. It's easy to do, very inexpensive. I hear it's free. So you just boom, click on that. Follow her. Jump to my feed if you're trying to find her, because I'm reposting her all the time. And you need to go to. I'm going to share the screen really quick, because they need to be able to go to the Voice. Okay, guys. So go to the Voice right here, and Voice of San Francisco. This is the front page. Look at that. I mean, come on, right? This is you cannot go to this web page and turn off of it and feel like you haven't learned something.
And
And
it's free. You can subscribe.
yes, it's free to subscribe, no cost to you guys, and you'll get smarter, and you'll feel empowered. They pull no punches, which I love, and it's in just, I got to say, artistically, I love the aesthetic, and because I'm a writer as well, I do a lot of talking, but I actually done a lot of writing in my life, so I love good writing that catches you, and like, for example, open enrollment for dummies. I mean, who would not want to click that, right? Because sometimes I'm a dummy, and I'm open enrollment's important. It's great. Healthcare, right? So, guys, it's more than just a crime, but that's obviously the focus. So many great things, and it's a great alternative media, alternative cyber press. And check out Liz's work there, and then Susan. Shout out to Susan. We love Susan. Susan's teaching me stuff. I'm learning again, terrifying me. All these things, you guys terrify me, but it's important to be educated. So there you go, guys. And also, please subscribe to me, and as well, Jason J. Daniel, on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch. If you're subscribing on, a lot of people watching on Rumble, thank you guys. And X, if you're subscribing on Rumble, jump over to YouTube. Give me a click there. It's really important, and it tells the algorithm that what you're watching is important to you, and it might be important to other people. So there you go. So Liz, thank you. We'll sign off.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Yeah, have a wonderful night and stay safe. God bless you guys. Take care.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye now.